So what on earth did I do to this Les Paul? Well, I installed a fake pickup. So after last week's video, I decided it would be fun to convert my Les Paul to have more of an Ace Frehley style appearance, especially with my new course coming up. So after receiving so much encouragement from you guys, I decided to embark on an Ace Frehley course. It's called Spaceman Secrets, and in it we're gonna dive deep into Ace's tone, into his licks, into his concepts, and I'm gonna teach you everything I know about how to play like Ace Frehley authentically. So that's Spaceman Secrets. Check it out in the link below. So what on earth did I do to this Les Paul? Well, I installed a fake pickup. Originally, I just had two stock burst bucket pickups in the neck and the bridge, and I had a nice big gap in the middle. But it was important to me that both my course and my Kiss covers had an immediately identifiable Ace Frehley look to them. It turned out that there was more to this process than I originally thought. So the first thing I did was go to Modern Musician and buy some new pickups. And while I was there, I also got a replacement pick guard, pickup ring, and a set of gold speed knobs, just like Ace had. So the first task was to take this pickup ring, which looked a bit like this one, but a bit shallower, and melt it to fit the shape of the guitar. While I did consider sanding it down to fit the contour of the guitar, I actually found it easier to melt. So I used a hairdryer to get it hot, and then I molded the shape of it around a Bluetooth speaker of mine, just to get a nice gentle curve as a starting spot. And weirdly enough, it fit really well. So next up, it was time to add these screw heads. So I literally just took a bunch of screws and then used a set of bolt cutters to clip the head of the screw off. And then I used some wood glue to hold them in place. At that point, it was time to fashion a backplate for the pickup. So anyone who knows me well knows that I almost never keep the backplate on any of my Strat style guitars. As soon as I buy a new Strat, the first thing I do is I take off the backplate because I'm going to be in there making adjustments all the time. As a result, I've got a whole bunch of backplates just lying around. So I decided to take one of the scratch plates and cut it into shape using this knockoff Dremel. And then of course I had to hairdryer that as well to mold it to the same shape as the pickup ring. It also required a fair bit of sanding to make it match that wedge shape of the pickup ring. Next up was the pick guard. So as you can see, a typical Les Paul pick guard for two pickups has a gap for each of them here and here. Now, I assumed I'd have to make a third gap here, but as soon as I saw some photos of all Ace's guitars, I noticed it's just a straight line. So after masking it off and adding a nice guideline, I used the trusty Dremel knockoff just to cut a nice line along it. And then all I had to do was use a file and some sandpaper to get it to the perfect shape. Surprisingly, that was actually one of the easier parts of this operation. Then it was time to cannibalize another DiMarzio pickup. So unfortunately, I couldn't find an easy way of getting a hold of DiMarzio bobbins without emailing the company and waiting 5 weeks for a response. All the other bobbins I could find online did not match the color of the other pickups. And that left me with only one solution: to cannibalize another pickup. So this was definitely the messiest part of the operation. After dismantling the pickup with my trusty Ozito here, I was just left with these two pieces of plastic. So next up I had the challenge of taking these two plastic bits and making them sit level, even though there was nothing underneath to really hold them in place. So for that, I used a combination of guitar picks that I'd chopped up, some super glue, and some gaffer tape. And during this stage, I also added some aluminium foil so that when you look through the holes, there was a shiny metallic glint coming back at you. I had naively hoped that this effect might pass as the pickup poles, but I ended up finding a much better solution. We'll get to that shortly. So now I had the bobbins ready to go in, but there was nothing underneath them. And so it would look like there was just two bits of plastic sitting on another piece of plastic. To me, it was important that it looked like there was a layer of something underneath the bobbins. So for this, I used some felt tape. This worked great, except I needed to make it into more of a wedge shape. Because of the natural shape of a Les Paul sloping down, I had to compensate for that. So with a knife and scissors, I tediously cut down the felt until the pickup was sitting roughly level. Now, sticking the whole thing to the guitar was the scariest part. I really did not want to ruin the finish on this beautiful Gibson Les Paul. So after doing some research, I discovered that those 3M command hanger hooks, those adhesive pads on the back, should be safe for the nitro finish. And to be extra safe, rather than using the full width of the tape, I decided to cut it into smaller parts. Now the good news is it has stuck on perfectly and it hasn't moved at all. The bad news is I won't really know how well this worked until I take this pickup off. And at this stage that probably won't be for quite a while. But I figure worst case I might have to take it to the guitar doctor and get him to refinish it slightly. I'd much rather that than have a big gaping hole in the middle of my Les Paul, especially for a pickup that I'd never use. Now for the pole pieces, I was originally hoping to use some nice screw heads, but I found none of them fit. They were all too big. When I was rummaging around through the old toolbox, I found a nice set of mini nuts and bolts. And I realized that if I took 2 of these nuts and put them in the hole, they would fit perfectly. They'd have the perfect height and the perfect width. So using some super glue and a pair of tweezers, I very carefully put them all in place and made sure they were all stuck in. And that completes the mod. Personally, I'm really happy with it. Sure, it took a lot longer and a lot more effort than I thought would be required, but in a sense, that just makes victory sweeter. I believe that upon playing this instrument, the average guitarist wouldn't even be able to detect that it was fake. The only giveaway would be the incorrect tone on the middle setting. It would be really cool if some company out there made a product like this and you could just stick it on your Les Paul. Anyway, shredders, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and just a quick reminder about my brand new course, Spaceman Secrets. Check it out in the link below. Thanks for watching, and do me a favor and check out one of these other videos.